Oh,
Well, yep,
now
we
we're
are.
back.
Nice. All right, thanks.
Excellent.
Thanks, computers. Sorry, you were saying the Munsters.
Yeah, so the Munsters house, they used to be neighbors with the Bateses in a certain sense.
Hmm.
But here's where we come to our first quiz section,
Oh
because
no.
the Maxim house, the house that became the Munsters, featured in a number of other shows and movies as well.
Okay.
And so you get to pick out. I'm going to do three of these are actual shows or movies that it was in, and one of them is one that it's a real movie, but I made up that it was in it. So,
Okay. Okay.
so Leave It to Beaver, Christmas with the Cranks, The Burbs, or Desperate Housewives.
I believe the Burbs because the Burbs. That's the Tom Hanks movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like a horror comedy movie.
Yeah.
So they'd use that maybe to evoke the horror. Desperate Housewives also has like a weird psychological thing, so that'd be spooky. The one that I immediately want to say no was Leave It to Beaver. But then Christmas with the Cranks also seems just like a weird ass movie you would pull out to be there. Leave It to Beaver, boy. I'm gonna go with Mr. Perp. Let's say Leave It to Beaver.
Oh, it was in Leave It to Beaver. You were so
Oh,
close. It was Christmas with the Cranks.
okay. Mr. Perp, I trusted you.
It was a good effort.
Because Christmas with the
Um,
Cranks, like that just feels like a weird movie Robert would bring up.
yeah. Man. So, anyways, you can still see the Psycho House today on the Universal Studios backlot tour,
Oh,
but there's some question as to whether it's actually the original one. James Rolfe makes the case in his video that it's more likely that the one you can see today is actually the facade that was built for Psycho 3, and he seems like he knows what he's talking about, so that's what I'm gonna say. But yeah, so I have a couple of other interesting factoids related to other iconic movie houses or locations, if we want to do some quizzes around those.
all right. This is your baby. I'll do what you gotta do. But oh,
Yeah.
before we go, if you look now at the stream, my yellow cup to totally
Yes.
advertise Dickie's barbecue. This is freaking me out. I don't know why it's doing this, but it's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Oh man,
Mr.
fabulous owl
Perk
right.
says there's a Psycho House in Christmas with the Cranks. That's pretty funny.
Ghost cup. All right, let's get this quiz on. Let's see who's quizzing. Oh, and it's
All right.
Snarf. Oh, is
Oh
Dickie's
man.
barbecue still around? I thought they went out of business because all the locations around us closed.
Okay. But we've inverted it's back to a like theoretically normal quiz for the rest of these questions. So there's one true answer and then the rest are false.
Oh, okay.
Um, so for the first one, the house from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was relocated and turned into another kind of business. You get to guess, was it A, an auto body shop, B, a new age medicine store, C, a shop that specializes in the sale of famous movie props, or D, a family restaurant?
This is so much harder than the normal way we do it. Okay, so we got one in for restaurant. We got two in for restaurant, it seems like.
Ooh.
Mr.
And
Perp
one for a crack
Crack
house.
House.
The right in answer.
um, a restaurant seems right. The house for movie props feels also right, but I guess the house for that to me doesn't stand out as an iconic house. So I could see that not. The New Age medicine sounds like one you just made up to be funny. But you know what? Let's just we'll see if chat can save me again. We're gonna go with restaurant.
Restaurant is correct.
Woo! Wait, did you guys Google it? That's the other thing I just realized is like, did they do that? Well, good job,
Maybe.
the chat. I don't know if I'd want
So
to.
another iconic horror movie house that has been actually relocated and repainted and then turned into something else is the Michael Myers house from Halloween. So you get to
Okay.
guess, is it currently A, a chiropractor's office, B, a flower shop, C, a novelty toy store, or D, a realtor's office?
The two that feel, because I saw that movie semi-ish recently,
Mm-hmm.
a restaurant. Um, is I've been to a lot of chiropractors because I have a janked up body. It looks like a
Yeah.
house that could easily be one. And then whatever the last one you said was,
A realtor's office?
a realtor's office. C, but what kind of toys? The options.
Snarf wants to know the options
Yeah,
again.
read those again.
So we have a chiropractor's office, a flower shop, a novelty toy store, or a realtor's office.
I think I'll wait for my answer. I have the one I want to lock in, but I want to see what everyone else says first. I don't want to get it spoiled for them. Okay.
All right, it's going B.
I'm going to go with Snarf and say chiropractor.
Man, that's 2 in a row.
Ooh! Snarf!
You thought this was going to be harder than normal, but you're doing really good. All right. So location number 3, the Bramford apartment building from Rosemary's Baby, is an actual apartment building, is an actual apartment complex called the Dakota in New York City. But in addition to serving as the exterior location for Rosemary's Baby, it's infamous for one other thing. Is it A, the former home of Al Capone, B, the place where conspiracy theorist David Icke claims that reptilians hide their human hybridization facilities, C, the building where John Lennon was shot, or D, the birthplace of YouTubers Jake and Logan Paul?
Oh, man. Well, the Jake and Logan Paul one seems like just funny, haha, sick dig on them, because that is a catastrophe. B sounded too long to be real. It sounded like you were doing your normal thing of having something very creative. But at the same time, you fucked me with that before, so I don't know. We do, yeah, you got... Trevor's riding in with the B one. I also want to go with John Lennon being shot.
You locking in your answer?
Yes.
You're correct.
Woo!
That's 3 in a row.
Yeah!
All right. So our last one,
Oh, man.
Camp Crystal Lake from Friday the 13th, is an actual Boy Scout camp with a kind of dumb name. In reality, is it called A, Camp Streefland, B, Camp Nobi Bosco, C, Camp Guy Robinson, or D, Camp Kiki Yappy?
Those are... Oh, man. What was the second one?
Camp Nobi Bosco.
I'm gonna go with Trevor and say B. He seems very adamant about B.
That's 4 for 4.
Oh!
You got them all.
Oh man! For that, Will now has to do that food challenge I said before. He just
Indeed.
agreed to it. He just said yes. Oh, too late. The first one's locked in. Well, thank you to the chat for helping me achieve my dream of finally getting a perfect score on Robert's quizzes.
Yeah, so that's all I had for our opening segment.
All right. Well, the first part will be the movie, so we're talking about 1960's Psycho, which came out in 1960.
That it did.
That was about all the prerequisite real-world knowledge I had about that movie before going in. But is this the first time you've seen it, Robert?
No, I watched it once before, but I was a lot younger at that time, and I don't feel like I really appreciated it at that time. It just, like, when I was younger, it felt too slow to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I would say this is my first time watching it as a human possessing the kind of brain capable of appreciating it.
I think for me, this is also is it ranch? It is not ranch. It will involve stuff that Will hates probably just as much as ranch, but that'll be a ways away when we hit the 200 follower mark. But no, my
And
first
it's too late for him to back out because he already said yes.
my first experience with this movie, I believe, my it was at a family like get together. Someone was watching it. All the grown-ups were watching it. And I remember seeing it that it was in black and white, and I thought the TV was broken. And then I was like, this movie's so dumb it couldn't afford colors, and then I just left.
You know, the kind of funny thing is you're sort of right. There were like color, they were capable of shooting in color at the time, but one of the big reasons that Hitchcock decided to shoot in black and white was for budgetary reasons.
That makes sense. And we were dumb with our non-psycho appreciating brains.
Indeed.
But now that has changed. We've gotten a chance to watch it, and now I personally appreciate the movie.
Me too.
I will say my biggest problem watching it was just the fact I knew what the twist was at the end.
Yeah.
So it was so hard the whole time to be like trying to invest myself emotionally because I'm like he's a murderer. He's a crazy murderer like the whole time.
Yeah.
But to Anthony Perkins, the actor who plays Norman Bates in the movie, to his credit, at the time in 1960s, I don't keep bringing that up. I've said it like 100 times at the start of this. Is his performance is so weird compared to how every other like male actor I see on screen at times, because everyone else acts like how the character Samuel or the detective works, where they're very like proper. They stand up straight. They talk in like full complete sentences and then stop with very like punctuated like, and that's why you did it, right?
They've all got that like the way that you think of old people, of like people in old movies talking.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
but he talks like he felt almost like a modern actor, like with how his like kind of flow, and he moves like, hey, you know what they say, like your boy's best friend is his mom, right? You're crazy.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, what year did it come out? I don't remember.
wait, when did it come out?
Yeah, Snarf's
1960.
Yeah,
Oh.
he's the goofing. But the one thing, if I wouldn't have known the twist, I would have known Norman Bates was a crazy murderer. And I somehow missed the part at the beginning where he actually murders someone, is when the detective shows up and he's just eating a bag of candy corn out on the front of the motel.
Oh man, does that mean I'm a murderer because I like candy corn?
Yeah. Or at least you are someone who is half possessed by a dead mother. So you don't necessarily have to kill people, but
I just meet all the prerequisites.
mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
But I will let you take this away. What were like your big impressions, thoughts, your favorite trivia? Do your movie thing.
Yeah, I agree that it's Anthony Perkins. Was that the actor's name?
I believe
Hopkins.
So. Was it Hopkins? I thought it was Perkins. Is this
Perkins.
The dude from the Orient Express? Murder on the Orient Express?
Oh, maybe. I completely didn't catch that if he was.
Anthony Perkins. Yes.
But yeah, like
the actor from both of those. He was the dude who was like the assistant to the dude who gets murdered.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of fun.
Hopkins is Hannibal. Yep.
Snarf is correct. Yep.
But
yeah, I thought he did a great job. Like, this movie has a lot of interesting elements to it that I think really add a lot. And some of them are things that we wouldn't necessarily even do today. Like, the fact that the main character dies kind of like more than halfway through the movie. Is that correct on the like timeline of that?
Yeah, it's because the movie's about an hour and 40 something minutes, and it's like, yeah, it's like at about the 50 to an hour minute mark. Hour minute. That's a time
where
thing now.
infamous shower stabbing scene comes in. But like she gets so much setup, and I feel like that makes you kind of care more about her as a character than you normally do about like in other horror movies, the people who are there at the start just to get murdered and show you how terrifying the killer is, like are around for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, if that much.
Yeah, and they're only given like, I'm the dude who likes football and girl pussy, and then you're just like, that guy's gonna get stabbed.
But yeah, she's like a really interesting, well-rounded character, and I actually was really involved in just like her story from the start. The way that you understand her character motivations as like she has this long distance boyfriend who has debts, and then this opportunity to steal $40,000 falls into her lap, which like by today's standards I think is about, or like calculating for inflation, if I'm remembering correctly, it's about $315,000 in today's money.
Jeez.
Yeah, so like that's a huge amount of money that she steals, but you also completely get why she steals it. And then like the whole scene of her running away, when she's in the car and sees her boss,
that gave me a slight panic attack.
Yeah,
because I was just like, I've done naughty things, and I'm always thinking, yeah, I'm planning ahead, and then like the one weird thing I didn't plan for would happen, and I just go. I had one of those moments a little bit while watching that where I'm like, oh no, she's gonna get busted because she said she was gonna go home and lie down because of her woman headaches.
Yeah.
This movie, that fucking guy with the cowboy hat at the beginning.
He's a total creep. Yeah.
He's like the dude who would then get murdered in a normal horror movie. He's the guy who shows up, basically almost slaps her in the face with money, and then like eyes her like meat candy. And then he gets no comeuppance. He gets a house.
Well, he gets his money stolen, right?
I guess that's true. And there's a Gengar. But
it's pretty dope.
The best ghost Pokemon.
Oh, false. I like Gengar a lot, but you know where I stand on ghost Pokemon.
Yes, I do.
It's all about that Chandelure.
But sorry for interrupting.
But yeah, that, and then like the scenes where she's in her car and you can hear her internal monologue, and she's kind of imagining what the other characters would say to her. Those scenes I thought were really effective.
I don't think I've seen that in really another movie I can think of where you see someone just like you hear what they imagine will happen.
Yeah, and it's like a thing that I think conventional movie or TV wisdom would say don't show the character's inner monologue, but I really liked it.
It was really well done.
Yeah. That, and then just like skipping forward ahead in time some, when she is having dinner with Bates and kind of like comes to understand the ways in which he feels trapped by his life and decides that she doesn't want to be trapped by the decision that she's made, so she's going to try and go back and turn it around, I thought was a really interesting decision on the part of her character.
It just kind of, that especially the fact that she's like, I'm going to go around and try to change it, that sets up the gut punch even more for the like knowing that she was going to die. Like, I didn't expect the whole startup of her thing. I couldn't believe how long it took to get to the Bates Motel in this movie.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't seen it like until like the Bates part last time I saw it, I guess. And I was just like, huh. Part of me forgot. I was like, oh, maybe she's not the one who gets stabbed. She's getting built up too much as a character. And then, yeah, as soon as she's like, yep, I'm going to reform and try this again, she gets murdered. I think this is like the first time a shower scene is shown in like American cinema.
Yeah, that, I don't know for sure if that's the case, but one funny thing I did discover is this is the first time in American cinema where a toilet was shown flushing on screen.
That's what it was. It was the toilet. I knew there was something with the bathroom. It was like, this was the first time ever. And it's like, oh, man.
It's so funny. They apparently had to fight with the censors to get that scene through, and it's such a nothing because it's just like some paper getting flushed down the toilet.
Which I thought about it, and that made me cringe a little bit because I've always lived in houses with shitty piping. I'm
Yeah.
just like, no, don't flush that down the toilet. And you're in the '60s when the toilets were terribler. But yeah, that the other thing I remember hearing, which I might be wrong, but I heard that because they're like to do the blood, it's just ketchup during that scene, like the ketchup that's pouring down. Is they went to different companies to try to get, like, hey, what if we used your ketchup for the blood?
So you're pretty close, but it wasn't ketchup.
It wasn't ketchup.
This
Then
was
I
something
might
I
just
came.
be bullshitting completely then.
What?
Oh, I said then maybe I'm bullshitting completely. And that's a lie I heard, and I'm now just proliferating through the internet.
Well, it was chocolate. It was
Oh,
like a chocolate sauce. Yeah. I'm trying to
okay.
find the name of it here. I had it written down in my.
Maybe it was chocolate sauce. It wasn't red.
Yeah,
Well, you wouldn't
Bosco
tell what
chocolate
color it
syrup.
is. It was a black and white movie.
Yeah, well, that's what's so interesting. Like that was another thing that found in the trivia section was apparently a big thing after this movie was people would claim that they saw the blood as red,
Hmm.
even though like obviously they couldn't have. But that says something really interesting about like the psychology of humans and the effectiveness of the scene.
Makes sense.
Um,
And for the record, Bosco's chocolate sauce is pretty good.
oh yeah, I had never heard of it before.
Yep, I think
So
it's regional, but yeah, I've had that when I lived back up in New York and stuff. I still prefer Hershey's Special Dark, but hey, Bosco's, you're doing something right out there if you're still around. Little plug for someone who, if they want to give us money or chocolate sauce, we'll take either.
yeah, you can have Will drink chocolate sauce.
He,
That's not
he would love
not a
that.
terrible thing though.
Unless we made
Yeah,
him drink an entire bottle of chocolate sauce.
there you go.
All right, there we go, Will. It's either that or white chocolate dipped Serrano chilies. That's your option. So yeah, she got murdered, and I was just like, oh man, that was crazy. But I did think it was kind of interesting from like a thematic thing, is that this whole money thing gets built up. I'm sorry you didn't make it to top in Apex. Oh, he just walked back into the room. You're drinking a whole lot of chocolate sauce in a gallon. You're drinking a gallon of chocolate milk on stream. Oh God. This is the channel where we're actually just trying to kill Will with food.
That's TOS. We can't do that.
Second is good though. Is they make such a big deal about the money and this character, but then both of them just get thrown into the back of a trunk, literally dead, and then sunk into a swamp.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh.
I mean, I think that's a deliberate thing though to
Oh.
show you how different like what Norman Bates values from a normal person is.
Well, I don't know about that because he doesn't know there's money in it.
That's true.
I just meant like
But
as the film as a whole is just like, guess what? This isn't what the movie's about. It's not about this lady. Ha ha. And I was like, oh, okay.
yeah.
He doesn't actually kill that many people. I really, for a movie called, even though he is a psycho, I was building up this to be like he kills like 10 people over the course of this movie somehow.
Yeah, there's I think 4, right?
Well, during the movie, he
3
only
during
kills,
the movie,
wait, who's
1
the third
before.
one?
What?
He only kills
No?
2.
Okay, no, he kills 2 during the movie, 2 before.
Yes.
Okay.
But just maybe jumping ahead. What did you? The only part of the movie that kind of made me laugh, but it was because of technology at the time. What did you think of the scene when what was his name? Argoblast?
Arbogast,
Arbogast.
which is a dope name. I kind of like it.
I do too. I was like, hey, Ibelgists.
I wrote that scene down in my notes because it does look really goofy now.
When he's getting stabbed and having to walk back down the stairs, and he
he's
literally
like,
just
"Whoa!"
whoa. I was like,
Oh,
I thought
man, yeah.
I thought he was going to survive that movie because for some reason I thought, just because of how like fancy his name was, I'm like, oh, is he like a Oh god, the detective from Pierrot. Is he like a Pierrot
Mm.
character where he's in a bunch of Hitchcock's movies? Because it sounds familiar.
Ah,
And then he just got stabbed a whole bunch by a transvestite man who's not a transvestite.
that he did.
Okay, one other thing I want to bring up before you get back on track with all the stuff that's actually relevant and important to the film. Do you feel like this film was somehow like backed by some weird subsection of like the SAG who are like, no, we really want everyone to be leaning on things all the time?
What? I
Screen
I
Actors Guild, sorry.
screen. Oh, were people? I didn't notice if people were leaning on stuff a
Everyone's
lot.
fucking leaning on all the dudes at least. There's just like the first time you meet Argoblast, he just comes in, he's like, haha, leans on the counter. Samuel, when he's talking to what's his fucking name? Bates, he's leaning on everything. At the very end when we crashed again, son of a bitch.
Oh no.
We're back.
Oh yes.
When the psychiatrist at the end is doing his big, like, look how big dick I am with my super reveal, he goes and leans on 3 different parts of the room for upwards of like 2 or 3 seconds, and he's like, haha, not a transvestite. And I was just like, did everyone just lean on stuff on this in the 60s?
Maybe.
I got too excited and I'm coughing again.
Man, yeah, I did not notice that, but I feel like if I watch this movie again, I will not be able to not notice it. So
Why was it muted?
I'm guessing that was from when we crashed.
Yeah, we may have
Is that why it
crashed
was
there
muted?
for a second.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Can you hear us now?
Hopefully so.
Hopefully. Everything says that it's on. But we're also a little behind now because of the weird delay. But anyway, going forward. Sweet. Okay.
Awesome. So like another scene. So going back, we talked about Marion's perspective in the scene where she's talking to Bates,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Bates is really interesting in that scene too. The way that he reacts when she tells him that he should put his mother in a madhouse, where he just like flips and becomes
Like hostile
really
almost.
hostile, yeah, is really great. And I wonder if he kind of has at least some understanding of how crazy he is too, because of that line where he says to her, like, do you know what it's like in those places, all of those people looking at you, which is like an interesting thing. I feel like being afraid of people looking at you in a madhouse is the kind of thing that a crazy person would be afraid of having happen to them in a madhouse, you know?
It made me wonder if he had actually at one point been committed for a little while.
Yeah, me too. But like the rest of the story doesn't seem to imply that that was the case.
If someone, like one of the sheriffs, been like, he was actually in the nut house for a little while or something, but...
Oh, someone was?
No, I'm saying, like, if he was in it, I feel like a character would have brought that up.
Yeah. For sure.
Not getting me this time, ghosts. Whew, sorry, I started coughing really hard.
Yeah, I thought he was really great in that scene, though. Also, another thing that I thought was interesting is the way that his mom talks when you hear her.
Mm-hmm.
Become obviously is him.
Yeah.
And I found it really interesting to observe the way that she talks, because like it's totally believable from Marion's perspective that she's hearing the mom, but at the same time the way that his mom talks is like oddly elaborate.
Yeah.
I wrote down one of the quotes that she yells at him when he's telling his mom he wants to bring Marion to the house to have dinner. She yells at him, by candlelight, I suppose, in the cheap erotic fashion of men with cheap erotic minds.
That was a good reading, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. but it's just like was interesting to me the way that you see him voicing his own hangups about sex through his mother, or at least his perceived mother's hangups about his sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Okay. Because honestly, like, if I didn't know going in that he was an insane murderer,
Yeah.
I would have been like, he's a little weird, but he seemed like a personable person.
Yeah.
Like, he had a sort of charm to him that sort of reminded me, which I think this predates. Yeah, this definitely would have to predate, I guess. Like, people always talk about how Ed Bundy like killed people, is that he lured them in by having like a nice personality.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I'm double
Which,
dying.
yeah. Bundy was not the serial killer or the real life serial killer he was inspired by.
Was it Ed Gein?
Ed Gein, yeah, who was definitely not a charming
He was a creepy boy.
individual. Yeah.
But that I was a little bit disappointed, but I'm sure because of how they were doing it, is I wanted to see a part where Bates talked in his mother's voice on camera.
Yeah.
I put a cough drop
I
in my
feel
mouth.
like, yeah, it probably would have been really hard to do at the time because it wasn't like they hired other actresses to do the voice.
Yeah.
So that they would have had to dub it over, and it's probably really hard to dub another actress precisely onto a different performer.
I'm sure it's not easy,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was the only thing where I really wanted to see that. It was also like kind of weird at the very end when he's getting caught by Samuel. Like his body was being really weird. Like I couldn't tell if he was trying to act like he was in pain or something. I'm like, what do you think was happening there? Like he kind of starts like bending really weird, and this look of contorted pain comes over him. And Sam's just kind of holding him. He doesn't look like he's choking him or anything.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. I feel like he's just supposed to be full blown mad at that point, you know? Like there's nothing coherent or sane about the way that he's acting. He just the defense mechanism of the mother personality is so kicked in and so intent on killing that nothing else is really processing for him.
Gotcha.
At least that would be my take on it. But
What was he sinking the like cars into?
it's like a swamp.
Because it looked like quicksand almost.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know.
I think they say it's a swamp, or at least like when I was reading about it in trivia, that's what they call it, is a swamp.
Because I guess because I was trying to think, because this is taking place in Arizona, right? Or is it in California?
It's in California. Yeah.
Oh, I guess there's swamps there. It was just weird because when I saw him pushing the car, I was like looking ahead. I'm like, I don't see any water for this to go into, and then it just started sinking into the ground, and I was like, oh, that's
Yeah. I mean, it read to water, or actually, it does read as like really thick, just mud, doesn't it? Which I mean, maybe that just looks better on camera. I don't know.
I did think it was really cool that they spent time on the shot of when he was sinking the car for the first time, and you kind of see as like the car stops sinking as fast, like the look of worry that comes over his face.
Yeah.
I was like,
That's something that like Hitchcock is so good at, is creating tension even for villains. Where you're like, you see that tension in him, you feel it, even though he's the bad guy. Yeah, it's great.
because I didn't expect them to him to go through the whole thing on camera of disposing of the body and cleaning up the crime. That, I mean, that happens in some movies, but normally it'll be like after someone kills someone, the person will then just like grab a bag, and then the bag will go towards the camera, and then like it's all cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the purpose of it in this movie is that he genuinely doesn't think that he killed her. So, like, we're seeing his emotional response to a killing that he believes his mother committed. And so, like, maybe that needs a little bit more establishment, but maybe not. I don't
Oh,
know.
I agree. I think that's what it was for. It was just something I wasn't expecting.
Hmm.
Because I'm so used to like modern movies where when someone gets murdered, one either the perpetrator doesn't take the time to clean it up, and then like it'll get murdered, and then the next scene that you see will be the last shot of the dead body, but now there's just police looking at it,
Yeah.
or it's just the quick like fade to black thing I was talking about before, or they'll just shut the door behind them, and it's like okay, you assume they cleaned it up off screen. But I think Hitchcock just does a lot of methodical things in his films. Like it shows, like he goes through the steps of what it would take in real life to do things. Like in Rope, there
Yeah.
wasn't ever like a cutaway of them doing something. You always saw them putting the body into the thing, or moving the ropes, or setting the table all the way. It wasn't just
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he really wants you to think about how it would feel to be in that situation.
and I was just like, oh, I had something, but I can't remember. Part of me did expect to see her dead, naked body, like frontal at some point, and I was like, this is gonna be weird. But then they didn't, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, I think like the only I mean, you don't really see her when she's in the carpet, but apparently they hired another person who was the body that got rolled up in the carpet.
well, it's the shower
And
curtain, but
yeah, and the curtain.
I was
You're right.
wondering about that because I was like, the way she was like being moved around and stuff, I feel like wouldn't be very flattering to like a highfalutin actress of the time. So I
Yeah.
was like, is that really her being dragged around? And now you've been like, oh no, it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't, but the girl who was actually in there, I guess, did work for Playboy around that same time. And so a magazine came out where she was like on the cover in a shower while Psycho was showing.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, there really wasn't. Aside I guess never mind. There's not a lot of violence in this film,
Yeah.
which I really appreciate. They do a good job of building up tension and then just like punctuating it with these two moments of violence. And even the second like level, like the second one when the detective is getting stabbed, it's like framed in a way you don't actually see the knife hitting him or anything. So
Yeah.
both, I guess, it was probably just a product of the times. Now that I think about it, is both of the stabbings kind of looked silly.
Yeah, they like definitely don't hold up today, but at the same time, like at that time in cinema, they had to have been enormous undertakings. I know the shower scene apparently took a whole week to film.
Huh.
Yeah, and the I can't remember the name of the actress who played Marion, but apparently she was only available for filming for 3 weeks. So like a full third of the time that she spent shooting this movie was spent on that scene. There's something like 78 cuts in it. And it lasts it's only like 45 seconds that you're seeing the actual stabbing. So like there's an impressive amount of work that went into it.
Yeah, like I didn't like really think until like I thought about it after a second. That was a dumb sentence to start this with. Is when you see Bates as the mother stabbing in, is like she's actually like stopping him after getting stabbed a few times. Like you see her like struggling and holding back even though she has been stabbed a few times.
Yeah.
So it made that scene to me feel even more real. Like it wasn't just sneak in and then just stab her a whole bunch and then she just kind of goes, ugh. And even the way she
Yeah.
died felt pretty like real-ish.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I would agree so. And there's like some work that they put into subtler things too. Like I guess you can see the knife really indenting her skin. And so the way that they did those shots was they would start with the knife pressed into her skin and then pull it back, and then they like reverse the shot for the movie so it looks like it's being stabbed in,
Oh,
and you get that realistic indentation of the knife going into the skin.
that
Um,
is really fucking smart. I can't, like,
yeah.
damn.
Do you I actually have one little quiz related to this scene for you if you want
Okay,
it.
let's do it. Is chat
So,
here with me to help me win it again?
so the Foley sound for the knife stabbing is the sound of a knife actually stabbing something, but obviously not a real person. So, is it stabbing A, a watermelon, B, a cantaloupe, C, a honeydew melon, or D, a pumpkin?
Oh, okay. These are. This is kind of a crapshoot one because it's just like, especially
Yeah.
honeydew and cantaloupe, they are almost genetically identical.
Should I have made them more different?
I was expecting to be like a watermelon, a can of orange juice, a pig,
Yeah.
and then it's just all fruit with thick rinds. I want to go either pumpkin or watermelon. I'm gonna go pumpkin just because it's spooky time. But was it a honey?
It was a
It
honeydew.
was a honeydew. Okay,
Yeah.
but
Well, I'm sorry that quiz was disappointing.
it's okay. I'm used to it.
Oh.
Sorry. The thing that impressed me the most of that whole scene, which I'm sure it's probably not like there's some trick that made it easier, but when the shot started on her eye and then zoomed back and her eye didn't move at all for that whole thing and she kept her eye
Yeah.
open. That made my
Yeah,
eye water and feel weird while watching it because I'm like, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's rough. Apparently he got a lot of letters about that scene though.
Does her
From
eye
people
twitch
who
a
are
second?
eye expert. So it wasn't the twitching, it's that if she was actually dead, her eyes would be like more dilated.
Oh.
And so people told him that he should put what was it? I think it was belladonna.
Oh, wait. The plant extract in the eye.
Yeah, it's like a poisonous flower. So if you
Mhm.
put a little bit of that in the eyes, then it causes them to dilate. And I guess in all of his movies after that, if someone was dead and their eyes were open, that's what he would do.
Well, there you go. Just learning and getting better.
Yeah, even if you're a master of horror, there's always new things to learn.
I'd say more of like suspense thriller rather than horror. I don't think I've ever been
Yeah.
scared of any of his movies.
I mean, he gets called a master of horror.
Does he? Okay. I mean, I believe you.
Yeah,
I
I've
just-
heard him called a master of horror. But
Makes sense. Did you?
I mean, I think you're probably right.
I'm sure you caught it because you have eyes, but you saw his cameo in the movie.
I didn't actually catch it. I knew that it was in there, but I didn't actually catch him.
Oh, because he's like the only person in the frame for a little bit when he's on there. He's a guy standing outside of her office. And
Ah.
then when two ladies walk by, he clearly looks at their butts. And
That's pretty funny.
but he's like standing in his normal way, like where he's up very straight and his hands are behind his back, like doing his Hitchcock pose.
Yeah.
Is the lady who's the actress here the same one who's in The Birds?
The one who plays Marion or who
Yeah.
plays her sister?
Oh, well, either one of them. They both kind of look similar to her, but I might be crazy.
I don't know if it's the sister. It's definitely not Marion though, because apparently after this movie, he kind of like very sadly told that actress that he could never work with her again because like her role in this movie was so iconic that like if he worked with her again, it would just be overwhelmed by that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a bummer for her.
Yellow indeed.
Hey, 31899, how are you doing? Are we doing
It is- yeah, it
Coldplay
is a-
songs?
What?
I was asking, are we just naming Coldplay songs?
Yeah, it's kind of sad that she would never get to work with him again, but I think she and Albert Perkins both
Anthony Perkins.
Anthony Perkins. Damn it. Both kind of said in various interviews after the movie that even though they both got typecast a lot after it was shot, they didn't regret in any way doing it, just because like it was such a huge phenomenon.
Yeah, like the shot at the end where he's like, "I wouldn't even hurt a fly." I've seen that face he is making in so much stuff. Like I saw that before I even knew what Psycho was.
Hmm.
But he was a crazy guy in that movie.
Indeed, he was.
But man, everyone in that movie was really bad at lying.
Yeah.
When Miriam was just like, she writes her name down and knows that he saw her name, Bates. And later when they're talking, he gives her her real name. And I'm just like, dude, come on. You just gave him a fake name.
Yeah.
And then just, I don't know. Norman Bates' character was just really bad at lying to everyone. Like, everything he said was just so intensely suspicious.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, oh, okay. But I really don't really have anything else to say about it. It was just a really good movie that I wish, when my device is finally finished, where I can go in and selectively, temporarily delete knowledge that I have, I would want to go back and watch this movie again, removing from the fact that I knew that Bates is a killer from the very beginning and that he is his mom.
Yeah.
And then I want to do this podcast again.
Yeah, it would be fun to see this not knowing what's going to happen. I think even the first time I watched it, I was like familiar enough with what I kind of knew what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never got to really be surprised by it.
Yeah, because like this
and
is
that's unfortunate, but
it's like one of the big twists of like
yeah.
cinema history. Like this and Bruce Willis was a ghost the whole time. Those are like the horror movie twists that I've always like known since I was a little kid.
Yeah. Well, and Hitchcock went to pretty great lengths to keep it a secret up until the release too. It was based on a novel, and I guess he bought the rights to the novel and then tried to buy up like every existing copy of the novel that he could find.
Oh.
So that people couldn't read the novel. It was.
Hitchcock seems like he was kind of a weird dude.
Yep.
Hey, Maria Gray. Maybe Hitchcock was the first troll.
He does do some trolly things sometimes. I feel like he's in that same, like, he's probably not as horrific a human being as Kubrick was, but I feel like he maybe has some, like, similar traits.
Very, very possible. Just wait until we watch The Birds, and then you're like, yeah, in my trivia I looked up, he actually fired real birds out of cannons at humans.
I feel like I was reading about some movie where that was a thing that happened, where it was like someone was throwing birds at a person. But
well, that could have been any day in New York City.
It's true.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about the movie before we move on?
Well, I had a couple other trivia things that I thought were kind of interesting.
Well, let's get them. Let's get them in our mouths.
So the score of this movie was composed by Bernard Herrmann,
mm-hmm.
and I guess Hitchcock, like, when Hitchcock did the first cut of the movie without any score, he was really unhappy with it, and had even thought about just like cutting it down and making it an episode of his TV show, Hitchcock Presents. But when the score was added, it completely changed the way he felt about it. He would later go on to say that he feels like a third of the movie's impact was related to the score. And I guess he doubled Herman's salary just because he was so happy about it.
I mean, the shower scene stabbing like noise that plays, that is such an iconic piece of cinema music.
Yeah.
So, hey, he earned that double money.
Indeed.
Do you get the
Um,
reference Maria is making? Oh, is embracing the dark stories on Earth.
hmm.
Who is Aleister Crowley? I know that name from something.
He's like a famous warlock, or at least like a person who proclaimed to be a warlock.
Oh, because isn't he though? Because isn't that the person that Mr. Crowley, the Black Sabbath
Yeah,
song, is
that
based on?
song is about him.
Oh, okay. So I was like, I thought that was a fictional person, but that just shows how little I know.
Nope, he's a real dude. In terms of like people who claim to practice actual magic, he'd be one of the notable ones.
Oh, well, thank you for bringing that up, Maria Gray. I have learned something today, which is always my goal before I go to bed, is to learn something new.
Man. So kind of funny. Apparently on set, Hitchcock would always refer to Anthony Perkins as Master Bates.
Uh, I'm I can't tell if because I don't know him as a person mainly because he's dead. But if he was saying it with like sincerity or not, because
I feel like it had to have been a joke.
because I've heard him speak before. Because I watched a lot. My dad and I watched a lot of Alfred Hitchcock Presents,
Hmm.
so I know what he sounds like and how kind of his voice carries over. Maria Gray, I believe it was released in 1960.
That is correct.
Which makes me now wonder, is Maria Gray someone we know? But, oh my goodness, our stream keeps freezing up.
Oh,
And we're back
is
again.
it frozen again right now?
It was for a half a second there, and now we all look like pixelated garbage people.
But we're back in business.
But we're back in pixelated garbage business.
Excellent.
Is, like... I could see him just being like, Master Bates, I need to talk to you. And then, like, everyone just going...
Yeah, I guess the fact that I read didn't specify whether he was doing it as a joke or sincerely or not, but I choose to think it was like a tongue-in-cheek joke, but maybe not.
Maybe that's why he truly was the first troll.
Well, so I had actually another fact that made him feel a little bit trolly to me, which is that one of the angry letters that he received after the release of the movie was from a father. And I guess his daughter previously had watched a movie called Diabloique. Diabloique? I can't say this word. But Diabolique. But anyways, I'm assuming there was some sort of like bathtub murder scene in that movie because his daughter, ever since watching that, had refused to take baths. And then apparently she watched Psycho and was also refusing to take showers. And so the father was mad about that.
About how...
And Hitchcock sent a note back to him that said, "Send her to the dry cleaners."
And then he did that knowing he was writing another movie where someone gets horribly torn apart by, like, dry cleaner machinery.
Yeah. I think that's the Stephen King one.
Is that a thing in Stephen King? I'm sure it is Stephen King.
I don't know if there is a movie, but yeah, there is definitely at least a short story where there's like a demon that's living in, I think it's actually an industrial where they're like a place where you'd send your maid uniforms and whatnot to get washed. But yeah.
What was the first hotel horror theme or a novel or newspaper?
I don't know.
I
don't even know what hotel horror is. Do you know what that is?
I don't, but I'm excited to learn.
Indeed.
I'm assuming it's when, like, a bunch of people get killed in a hotel or a motel, and then the newspaper just goes, "Look at this shit! Look at all these dead people."
So, one pretty about this movie is that Hitchcock forbade any of the theaters that showed it from allowing patrons to enter after it had started. So, like, they were legally, they had to sign a contract that like once it starts, no one else goes in. And I guess the campaign to make patrons aware of that included a like cardboard cutout of Hitchcock that every theater got, which explained the policy, with one line being that the manager of this theater has been instructed at risk of his life not to admit to the theater any persons after the picture starts, which is kind of funny. And I guess he also distributed a record to all of those theaters that they would play in their lobby, and it would have music, and then like every so often would go like 10 minutes to psycho time, 5 minutes to psycho time.
I don't think I would like that if something was telling me psycho time was almost upon us.
Yeah. Oh man.
The Psycho, and The Shining were some of the first hotel horror.
Oh, like it's a horror that's set at a hotel.
Like a genre. Okay.
Interesting. Are there other like really notable hotel horror movies?
Like there's Room for whatever that has John Cusack in it.
1408.
1408.
I like that movie a lot.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I've seen some other ones that are like that, where it's this hotel, you go there and you get murdered.
Yeah.
I think it's The Guests was another one like that. Because it's you're going into a facsimile of your own home, where you're like, I know what this is. I have a bed and stuff at home, but at the same time, you don't know what has happened in that room, so it makes it weird. At the same time. Oh yeah, War of the Worlds, Orson Welles. I think we talked about that before on this podcast.
Yeah,
about how today
briefly.
I was like, I wonder if today if people would fall for it for a fraction of a second. Really dumb people. Part of me still thinks it would work in some parts of Florida.
I mean, I don't think the original would, but I do think like you could do a modern version of it.
Hey, Mrs. Duck 23, number 23. I'm not sure what that is in reference to, but we're happy that there's a 23rd of whatever that is. Unless it's like a number of murders you've committed, then stop it. That's too high.
That's too many.
That's a little over the limit for this channel.
People with 21 murders or less only.
Orson Welles does have a good voice.
Indeed.
Number 23. Oh wait, isn't that isn't Jim Carrey in that movie?
Maybe. I don't know.
Is that the one where he's going crazy reading
movie.
a book? Or is that the number 22?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with this.
I'll just Google it really quick. Yep, it was a Jim Carrey movie from 2007. I think he's writing a book, and he writes in the book like the number 23 or something has significance, and then he starts noticing it in his real life, and he starts going nuts.
Huh. Interesting.
I think if Morgan Freeman was doing a radio play for War of the Worlds, I wouldn't be worried. I'd feel very soothed. I'm like, I guess we're just all gonna die now. What movie first presented mental illness? I don't know. This one? So, hey man, Robert, you're getting unseated as the movie trivia guy.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna say M, which I haven't seen, but I know it was a pretty early horror movie about a serial killer. But maybe he's not presented as being mentally ill.
But do you have any more trivia for this movie, Robert?
Yeah, I had a couple others.
All right.
So one kind of interesting thing, even the cast didn't know what the ending was going to be. And apparently Hitchcock had a canvas chair made up with Mrs. Bates written on the back of it that was like there the whole time during shooting, so that the people on set would think that she was going to show up eventually for the scenes that she was in.
He is a troll.
Yeah. One other kind of funny thing is that the original script for the movie featured a bunch of extraneous risque elements that were a ruse to divert the censors.
Mm-hmm.
So like the important risque scenes like the bedroom scene and the shower stabbing would get through because the others they would like seem tame in comparison to some of the others. Um, so my last little trivia bit that's kind of funny or kind of interesting is that Janet Leigh's daughter is Jamie Lee Curtis, who would play Laurie Strode in Halloween.
Oh. Wait, who is she? Was
Yeah.
she,
She's Marion.
Oh! Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you say that, I think I've heard that before. But that is pretty cool.
Which, yeah, Halloween has a couple of other ties as well. Like the doctor in Halloween is named Sam Loomis, in honor of the boyfriend character in Psycho, whose
Oh.
name was Sam Loomis.
It's sort of like her
Yep.
mom got killed by a stabber person, and then she defeats a stabber person later.
Hmm.
I actually don't remember how Halloween ends.
The first one, or just like
The first
the
one.
first? Okay, yeah. I mean, do you want me to tell you? Start you this way.
Maybe not. Think about it for later things. I was just thinking, like, I don't remember how that movie goes. I think
Yeah.
doesn't he like kill the doctor or something, or I don't know.
No, it's been a long time since I've watched it, but I'm pretty sure Loomis shows up in some of the later Halloween movies. So
Because I know the second one he dies, right? It's
maybe.
Final
Yeah, that might
Destination
be
was
where he
supposed to
dies.
be an X-Files episode. Huh.
That's kind of funny.
That'd
That
be-
would have been a good X-Files episode, though. I feel like maybe they did that anyways.
Man,
Maybe not,
I
though.
have not seen enough X-Files to know.
I've actually been rewatching it recently. Um, it's a good. It's a great like background show to have on while I'm working on stuff or playing a game or whatnot.
Hmm.
Plus, I love Mulder and Scully.
Make them kiss. But all right, is anything else you had for the movie before we move on to the video game
No,
segment?
I think that's it.
Overall, good movie if you haven't seen it, and you're somehow being like,
Indeed.
man, I don't mind that I've had the whole movie spoiled for me.
I did remember I had one other question that I was going to ask you,
Okay.
which is, do you like this movie better than Rope or not as much as Rope?
See, that's the thing with this one. I knew the thing going in, so like it took a lot of the from watching. I think I liked Rope more because I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
So the tension for me was there the whole time. Here I was like, I know the mom's not real, so I'm not confused at all.
Yeah,
It's not a
That's
super
fair.
fair comparison for me to make.
that's fair. I guess I was thinking like it's weird because I felt like I liked Rope more, but maybe that was something that was going on for me too.
I also just really like Jimmy Stewart in that movie.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a trivia bomb presented by Ahoy on the video gaming transition. Well, you're gonna be disappointed because we know what is Ahoy. Was that like
know.
was that a commercial that ran during our podcast or something for Ahoy? I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
Oh man, I forgot we can run commercials now. We could start doing that between transitions. Because once we
Yeah.
get 1,000 people to watch an ad, we get $3. So
Ooh. We don't want to do that to these nice
we
people,
won't do
though.
that this time though, because they're too nice. We've learned so much today.
Indeed.
So anyway, for the video game segment, oh, he's a documentarian. We are asking what are some time periods in video games that you'd like to see that haven't been touched on. Like World War II has been done to death in video games. We very likely never need another World War II video game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There is more. I remember someone saying like, if you took all of the media that depicts World War II and played it end to end, it would last like 2 years longer than the actual World War II did. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But yeah, for me, I had a few that, and some of these have had games made out of them, but I'm like,
Yeah.
they haven't done enough. I think the first one for me is kind of the weirdest one that I have, and it's not weird because of the time period. It's weird because it's actually in a lot of games, but it's not really explored, and that's the Stone Age, like
Hmm.
super early human civilization. And
Yeah.
the only game I can think of that really focuses on that is Far Cry Primal, which
Yeah.
was it just was another Far Cry game, but you didn't have guns.
Hmm.
Sumar. But like it's also in every Civ game you start, or Age of Empires you start in the garbage Stone Age, but it's not about being in the Stone Age. Oh, like ancient Sumeria, that could also
Oh,
be
that could
good.
be fun.
But I don't know, just and there are so many survival games that are out that where
Yeah.
you're like they just drop you on an island and they're like do shit, but then eventually after you slap enough rocks together you can start making machine guns anyway. So it stops being about Stone Age stuff.
Yeah. But I guess if you like made a game where you're setting the tech tree so that it's kind of stuck in Stone Age technology, then that would work.
Oh, video game trivia brought to you by Maria Gray. But is that like the definitive first game? Because I've heard a lot of debate on like what actually is considered the first video game.
Yeah. That seems like it would be a tough question to define. Um,
But what about you? Oh, so that's my first one. What about you, Robert? What do you got?
so a lot of mine are like kind of specific things in history that I thought you could set an interesting game there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so one that I feel like you could make a really cool game out of is just the idea of like Alcatraz, the prison.
Mm.
Um, and like I feel like there are a couple of different types of games you could set there. Um, you could definitely do like a survival horror set after it's been moved out, but you could also do kind of like a prison escape game. I think could be a lot of fun. And I don't know if there have even I'm sure there have been some games where you escape from a prison, but has there ever been a game where like your whole thing is to escape from prison?
I was gonna be like A Way Out is a co-op game about escaping prison,
Hmm.
but then that's only like the first 2/3 of the game,
Ah,
and then the rest is getting mad revenge on people who put you in prison. Uh, the first Suffering is about getting out of prison.
hmm.
That has been
That
taken
one's
over.
a survival horror, isn't it?
Yes, demons have taken over the prison, and you fight monsters based on different forms of execution.
Yeah, I would play the shit out of a survival horror set in Alcatraz. That'd be pretty dope.
That is a good one, I think. Another one that I was thinking of, which Assassin's Creed has done it, and I'm sure there are other ones, but I can't think of them, is the Crusades.
Hmm.
And the reason I think a good game could it's still fertile ground for gaming is I don't know if you've seen the movie Kingdom of Heaven.
I haven't.
It's a movie about the Crusades, and there's like the big climatic battle is the Muslim army is attacking Jerusalem to take it back from Orlando Bloom and his friends. But they just have this huge battle with these giant siege engines. And I mean, really just any game that involves siege warfare.
Hmm.
Here's a time period idea 1890s London, playing the role of a sex worker who has a family to take care of. That feels very much like that would be an indie game about making choices,
Yeah.
and it would end very depressingly. You'd probably get stabbed by
Be
Jack the
interesting,
Ripper.
though.
I don't know when Jack the Ripper was active. Was it in the 1980s?
Around
Or
that
the
time, maybe,
1890s?
or maybe not.
But
I'm
I mean,
not 100% up to date on my Jack the Ripper timeline.
I just really want to play a game that has like real feeling siege warfare.
I agree with Trevor on the Salem game, though.
It would have to be one that is hyper like not realistic because like in reality like no one really died in Salem.
Hmm.
Because that was the thing is they're like here's all this stuff and then we were like stop it. That's stupid. So if
Yeah, I mean, there definitely were like it doesn't necessarily have to be in Salem, but there absolutely are like historical instances though of, people being accused of witchcraft, and you could set a really interesting game in that kind of environment.
it could be really cool if it was set up like hey you guys are like your person is accused of witchcraft and then you don't actually really know whether or not the person is crazy or if there actually is like demons and stuff.
Yeah.
But that is a pretty good idea. Good job, Trevor. The state of Massachusetts would sue someone. As long as it's not us. But I was just say that. Do you have another one?
So another survival horror historical one that I had. Are you familiar at all with H. H. Holmes?
The name is not ringing any bells right off the bat.
So he's sometimes described as the world's first serial killer. I think that's probably not accurate, but he is at least like the first kind of well-known serial killer,
Mm-hmm.
where he was this guy who owned a hotel in New York during the time when like the World's Fair was going on. And his hotel was basically like an elaborate death trap.
Okay, I already like this idea, but I don't
Yeah,
like the idea of this in real life.
you like the idea of it as a game
Yes.
setting. Yeah. So yeah, like I mean, obviously a lot of people would come through his hotel and be fine, but he had certain rooms that were like the room that you would put a victim in, and then there were secret passageways and various like chambers that he'd made up to do crazy shit in, and just like I feel like you could put a pretty cool game there.
So when are you gonna mention the puzzle mansion from Rose Red that you just want to play around in?
Oh, the Winchester Mansion.
The Winchester Mansion.
I wasn't gonna bring it up today because I felt like I'd mentioned it so many times before.
Because you
But
just brought
yeah,
up the
I
Spencer
still want
Mansion.
that too.
Here's an idea.
For that one, I feel like the game you would want to set in the time in American history where like spiritualism was a big thing.
Mm.
Which like I'd love a game. I mean, I'm sure there have been plenty of games that did that, but I don't know of any that like stand out in my mind as being really good.
Thing that Marie's bringing up, the 1984 Orwellian time period, that almost sounds like what We Happy Few could have been if it ended up being a better game.
Hmm.
Where you're basically in 1984 and you have to just take drugs to keep yourself from going insane. But the idea of having Lovecraft specific insanity stuff could be pretty cool too. Because it'd have to be like a mix of technology and like the Elder Ones.
Yeah.
That could be really cool. I can't wait to steal
Oh,
all these
like
ideas.
if the government was being controlled by the elder ones at the top level.
I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking of them actually as two opposing forces, but either one could work.
Hmm.
Where it's like the government is trying to keep control and watch over its citizens because it knows about the Elder Ones. And then the Elder Ones start showing up, and people are like, what the fuck is this? And the government's like, don't worry about it. Be good.
It's got the trigger twist.
The what twist?
The twist that Trigger does in all of their anime series, where like the people who you think are the bad guys, in this case the government, turn out to have been doing bad things for a good reason, and they were
Yes.
actually trying to protect you all along.
Yes.
I call it the Trigger twist.
Oh, okay. I was like, is that actually a term? Because I know there's the Gynex ending
Yeah.
and the TV
It
screen
isn't a term yet, but it will be.
by the
Because
end
I'm
of our
gonna make it
careers.
happen. Yep.
The TV screens watching you happen to have whispers of the old ones when you turn it off. That'd be pretty spooky. Let's see, what is the other one? Oh, the Napoleonic War Times is another one that I have not really seen turn into a game. I'm sure there is like a Total War series game about it. But like a first-person style game, like playing. If we just want to keep going on this train, a survival horror game about being one of the, like, a part of Napoleon's army when they're trying to invade Russia, and just hundreds of thousands of people are just freezing to death.
Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely make some horrific stuff happen in that game.
Computer froze. Like, we froze or you froze? Because it looks good on my end.
Yeah, it looks good on mine too.
All good now. All right. Should I have one more? Time period. Stonehenge Druidism. Ooh.
That I'm down for.
All right. Tell us more. Tell us more.
I don't know, just like ancient magic is a cool idea.
It is always good. And then later in the 80s, witches will try to steal part of you
For their toy factory.
for their toy factory. Time, season, stars. I'm so ready for this cold to be all the way done. Like, I'm like a day and a half away. I can feel it.
Yeah. So would you druids, or are you like infiltrating some druids? I'm curious.
Because, like, when would that be? Like, what time
I
period?
don't know. That's like some old history, isn't it?
That's the thing is it like the OG Druidism, or is it like Druidism while it's happening during civilization? So it's like you're playing as a reporter whose job is to infiltrate the Druid ring, and then shit gets weird really fast.
Oh man, that gives me another cool idea though that I
Alright.
hadn't thought of before.
What are
Is
you
like
thinking about?
a game set on Easter Island, and like it's at a time in history where the heads are like big monsters or something.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like you learn how they were made, and I was gonna make the dumb idea they're actually battle mechs that you get in and fight people on the island. But then yours was like, oh, they're actually monsters. That could be pretty scary. I'm a little bummed that all of our shit basically just went to survival horror because, I mean, it is October, so I get it. What were the other time
Yeah.
periods?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Also, like, I'm just not much of a like pure history person.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like I really like elements of fantasy and like just the unusual. And I don't know, it's hard to think up game ideas for a game that like you could do a really cool realistic survival game in like a prehistorical time, but that also is not a game that I would be likely to go out and play myself, you know?
Gotcha. So, like, the Romanov thing, are you doing, like, the detective of after they're all killed? And you're trying to figure out what happened, sort of like Return of the Obra Dinn?
I'm not familiar with the Romanov family.
That's Anastasia.
Oh. Yeah, it could be cool.
That could be cool. The other two I was looking at, which they've already done, but I want to see more. I'd like to see more games set in Viking times. Because you could just have pirate ship battles, and then also axe fighting. And the other one, which I know there's a bunch of games, but there hasn't been like one really good one yet, is like the golden age of piracy.
Yeah, that was one that I had thought about.
Is like Assassin's Creed Black Flag is probably the closest one, but it's only like half a pirate game. And then the other half is Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Personally,
And also I can't play it because I can never forgive Assassin's Creed for betraying me.
Just start playing the new one. They're so different now and better. And how did they betray you? Like, you were
'Cause,
disappointed, but that's your fault.
yep,
Okay.
that's all it took. I hold
Playing,
on to grudges for a long time.
but it's not a. It's, you're the wrong one in the grudge. Like the game didn't
No,
do anything. Playing as
it
the
didn't
East.
live up to my wildest expectations.
Hmm. Playing as the East India Trading Company. That could be another one. That could either be like you could do it as a big AAA swashbuckling adventure, or like it could be like another Papers Please style game
Hmm.
where it's about managing and stopping pirates and catching like contraband and stuff.
Could also be like a online multiplayer game.
Well, there actually is one like that where there is a game where you can play as the East India Trading Company and then the other team is pirates.
Oh yeah.
Because the British ones all have like their healing item is a cup of tea, and then the pirates have rum. I saw a gameplay of it on Funhouse, and I was like, "Wow, that's dumb." Playing as Thomas, is it Malthus? Malthus? Malthus with business.
Yeah, I don't know who
tycoon.
that is either.
Probably a business person,
Probably.
but even though it wouldn't really fit into time period, I know one of my dream games would be an open world pirate game that has like fantasy elements, like with sea monsters and stuff. That
Hmm.
isn't Sea of Thieves, but just like a really story heavy action pirate game.
Yeah.
The grandfather of our economics as it is today.
Hmm.
Interesting. That's so it'd be like a survival horror game.
What?
I just asked if it would be a survival horror game. Setting up
Ah.
our broke ass economic system where the middle class is slowly. Oh man, a horror game set today where you're the last surviving member of the middle class.
That that idea is not on the nose at all.
Um, that would be so millennial. Can you outlive the fidget spinners and dank memes to make it into that six-figure salary? Or will you just end up in a back alley drinking large 2-liter bottles of red cola?
It's hard to know.
With the score by what's his name? Who's the guy who did all the music for the good Silent Hills?
Oh, Yamaoka?
Yep,
Akira Yamaoka.
If you guys are interested, watch Peter Joseph's Zeitgeist. Is that a documentary on Netflix? I feel like I saw that semi recently, like advertised somewhere. No, okay, then I'm dumb.
There was a like conspiracy movie called Zeitgeist that I remember watching when I was in high school.
Peter,
It's not that, is it?
why can't I? Oh, because I'm looking over here. The anti. Wait. When did YouTube become anti-LGBT? Is that a
That's
thing?
been a big controversy with them. Is that they have sort of been stealth demonetizing a lot of LGBT content,
Oh.
and kind of like they openly claim that they're not doing it, but it just keeps happening that they're constantly demonetizing LGBT creators. So
Huh.
people are upset with them, and rightfully so.
I would be pretty bummed too. This is not.
Yeah.
This is not meant as a joke, but it is kind of funny to me. My Black Humor is like, what if like they're not trying to do that? It's just that their algorithm through machine learning on the internet has just become like super anti-gay on its own.
Well, that's kind of what the problem is
Oh.
that like a lot of the content that gets reported as being kind of facetiously reported by people who are anti-LGBT themselves, and the algorithm has kind of learned to look for that content.
Oh.
But when your content gets reported and demonetized, you can send YouTube a thing that says like, "Hey, you're wrong. This shouldn't have been demonetized." But the people who they've hired to like go in and look over those claims are people from all over the world, and a lot of them are in countries where like it's literally illegal to be gay. And so it's like hard to teach those people to like, like this content is okay, and we know that it's not in your country. And it's just been a huge issue where they like don't really know how to fix it. But then there's also a lot of people who claim like part of the reason that it's getting demonetized is sort of YouTube trying to make sure that they stay in good favor in those countries too, you know? So, yeah, it's a shitty situation.
That does seem pretty lame. Well, did we have any more time periods that we want to talk about before we start wrapping this up?
I had a couple more.
All right, hit me with your big shots, my dude.
So one kind of broad one, and I don't know like specifically what genre game I'd want. I feel like I've not seen a lot of stuff that uses like Aztec or Incan aesthetics, and I feel like there's some really cool stuff that you could do with that.
Indeed.
But then I also have a very specific historical South American event that I feel like could make a great survival horror game.
Okay.
So this is there was a cult on an island called Chiloé, which is a series of like islands off the coast of Chile. And the cult is called the Brujo. And they were actually like taken to trial in the 1890s because they would like terrify people that they were going to curse them if they didn't do what the cult wanted. And so they had this sort of elaborate like mafia like organization of the Brujo. But during the trial of their members, there were a lot of like crazy things that came out that have never been substantiated, of course, because they're pretty crazy. But there are also like really interesting elements of horror that I haven't seen in other places before, or that at least like have a unique flair to them because they're from a different culture, which is like mixing ancient South American traditions with the Christian traditions that were sort of forced upon them, and you get this weird kind of mesh of things that happened. So like the cult supposedly started when a Spaniard brought a book of spells to them. But they also, I guess, had a bowl that could show them the future. There was a ghost pirate ship that they would commune with. But the like places that I feel like would be really cool to explore are they kept a lot of their secrets in these caves that were guarded by monsters that they were supposed to have made. One of them was called the Chivuto, which was like a human goat hybrid thing. But the one that's like really just like terrifying, messed up image was a monster called the Mbunche, which the way that they supposedly made an Mbunche, or that like people in the trials claimed that they made them, was that they would steal a 6-month-old child and take it to a deformer who would like over time twist it so that its head was like pointed backwards and its like limbs and fingers were all disjointed, and then it had its right arm for some reason that has been lost to time would be like severed and then reattached coming out of its back. And I feel like that would just be a weird, crazy thing to run into in a survival horror game.
That does sound pretty horrific.
But yeah, so.
Oh, I actually don't know that much about Morgan Le Fay. Isn't she like, was she the villain? Or was she a villain?
She's like, I think framed as a villain in the story, but I kind of like the idea of giving her the Maleficent treatment.
I was about to say like a
Where you're,
not shitty version of the Maleficent movies.
yeah, that could be really cool. I'd also just like love to play more games where you get to be a witch and do cool witch things.
What are cool witch things, Robert?
I mean,
Tell me some of
um,
them. Aside from making
spell
ambuches or
casting,
spell casting,
making what?
the ambuches or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's evil warlocks, not witches.
Well,
Because
what?
that like is one of the weird things where like witches were an idea that was imported to their culture from the like Western conquerors, but that society was so patriarchal that like it became warlocks in their version.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I want to play the Morgan Le Fay game. I guess like Bayonetta is a witch. She does lots of cool witch things.
She's. I guess she's a witch.
She's literally an Umbra witch.
I like her like literally like the real witches of Umbra who had gun boots.
Well, I mean like she's definitely not like a traditional version of a witch, but
No, but she got booty though.
yeah.
Yeah. How many?
She also has what?
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say she also just has dope moves
She does
and
have dope
is a
moves.
fun character.
I haven't played enough for her to really know it. Seducing Arthur's wife in the pale moonlight would be great video gaming. How many Bayonetta figurines do you have, Robert?
I only have 2 amiibos for Bayonetta. There's not a lot of figures for her. There's one by a company, I think it's Play Arts Kai that made her, but she's been out of print for years, and so that figure is like $400, which is more than I want to pay.
Don't buy that.
Yeah, that's a little bit out of my price range.
What else you got? Do you have any more time periods?
No, I think that's everything I came up with. Did you have any others?
No, I had like my like 4 at the beginning, just kind of just general ideas. I can't think of any other ones that pop into my head. Like the civil rights movement, I was gonna say, but then like Mafia 3, even though it didn't end up being a super great game, I think kind of hit where that would be. Unless you wanted to play a very sim like you're playing as just an average citizen who is black and having to deal with the horrible social situations at the time. But that to me doesn't sound like a fun game to play. It would be more of like an artistic,
Yeah.
like social commentary thing.
Actually, the 1950s idea, maybe this is more like 1960s, but the like time period where people first started being like really afraid of UFOs, it would be fun to have a UFO game set there.
Now you just said the 60s again. My brain is like, imagine like you're playing as like a member of a fake version of Alfred Hitchcock's stage crew setting up a movie like Psycho, but then shit starts getting actually weird. It's another survival horror, and you're just stuck in this terrifying movie set.
Yeah. That could be cool.
Lupin versus Robin Hood. I heard that as Red Hood, and I'm like, the Batman character? That's another one. Robin Hood. I have not really seen any good Robin Hood video games.
Yeah.
There's a kind of shitty real-time strategy one that I've seen, but aside from that would be a good one.
Yeah. Why haven't there been like mini Robin? Because that character's in public domain, right?
Yeah.
Like you can make a Robin Hood game. No one's stopping you.
They basically made a Robin Hood game with the Thief series. They
Hmm.
just name him different and put him not in whatever the fuck it's called, Nottingham or whatever. But all right, well let's start winding down. I guess first we need to figure out what movie we want to do.
Yeah.
What I was thinking, we have one more week in October. Or wait, do we have two? How many more Thursdays do we have? We have.
We do have 2. The last one will fall on Halloween.
Oh damn, that one's gonna have to be a super big special one. But one thing I'd like to do is I'd like to watch a movie, a Vincent Price film. Might need to fix the internet before next stream. I think what the problem is, it's actually my computer right now. And I will definitely try to address what the issue is. I apologize for the quality of this. It's normally marginally better. But doing a Vincent Price movie, he is like one of the he's seminal horror person.
I don't know actually who Vincent Price is. Um, what movies?
Did you ever watch The Great Mouse Detective?
I think I must have as a kid. No, I'm thinking of Fievel Goes West. I don't know if I actually watched The Great Mouse Detective.
Well, you know what? We'll figure it all out next time, and we'll tweet it out. We're gonna go ahead and raid into Zero Gravity Theater, and then we're gonna get this over
Oh
with.
wait, we're not gonna figure out a movie?
We'll figure it out later. So I want to
Oh,
say
because the stream is down?
it's freaking out. We will see you guys next time. Thank you very much for everyone who stopped
Yeah.
by, and we will see you guys later.
Bye.